Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another coffee break chat. It is 10:03 a.m. here in the beautiful, cloudy city of Philadelphia. I am coming to you live from Light Thief Production Studios. We're still on the digital rally broadcast, so I'll clip this out after the broadcast and upload it as a separate segment for y'all. But we're going to be talking a little love and hate. We have special guests for you today. It's tough for me to read my broadcast notes in this size. We've got Gillian Booth from Gemini Voices Company and Andrew Mark Schaffer from Encmpss. And we'll be talking to them in a few moments. So layout looks a little different than usual. That's because I've got this all set up for the digital rally and not set up for how I usually have it. So we're on a different layout than usual. But I'm gonna go ahead and welcome to the screen. Hold on 1 second. Our first guest, pin from first screen, there we go. I'm going to welcome to the screen our first guest, Gillian, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, your pronouns, and what it is you do.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Gillian Booth, and I'm the artistic director of a Philadelphia performing arts organization called Gemini Voices Co. Outside of Gemini Voices, I also freelance as a voice teacher and as a classical singer.
Awesome. And so Gemini Voices has a show coming up, correct?
Yes, so we've been running a virtual cabaret series since September. Our next production is this Saturday at 7:30. We're streaming it live from YouTube, and it's free, so anyone can tune in to watch with suggested donation.
Awesome. And where can folks find that show?
So we have a Facebook event. So the show is called Silly Love Songs, so it's Valentine's Day themed. And we have a Facebook event by the same name. And you can find us on Facebook at Gemini Voices Co. Also on Instagram at the same, at Gemini Voices Co. on Instagram. And so the event link has the YouTube stream link, which the event will be streaming off of. And you can feel free to follow us on both of those platforms for additional updates and other information regarding future productions. But yeah, we're really excited. It's our primary goal as an organization is to feature all different kinds of singing styles from different singing genres. So we're kind of tying all of these different songs under one theme, which is silly love songs, so it's relating to love, and we're really excited to have this happen this weekend.
Awesome. So you're on the love side of love and hate for Valentine's Day. Is there a good reason for that, or is it just where you like to be?
I think in terms of the show, obviously, like every song that's ever been written, or at least most of them, relate to love in some aspect. And that really worked in our favor because we are trying to highlight songs from all different repertoire canons. So we have songs from operas, musicals, pop songs, rock songs, like every single genre, but they all kind of tie into this theme of love, and that made it really easy for us to have that. So, and also I think it helps to, not everything, I guess, is under the romantic love aspect of Valentine's Day. So we have some songs that aren't necessarily like romantic, but instead just like platonic love or love between families. So I think that's also an important part of the idea of love and Valentine's Day.
Awesome. Great. I am looking forward to that. I hope that I can get to it. We have some shows coming up ourselves, so it's it's amazing. And when you're in the arts, you don't always get to see everything, see all the shows and everything. And I am going to welcome onto screen our hate side of the love and hate genre, which is Andrew. Andrew, if you would introduce yourself, your pronouns, and what it is you do.
Hello, my name is Andrew. I'm he, him from Encmpss, the arts collaborative from Allentown, PA, and also Los Angeles, California. But I'm in Allentown right now.
Awesome. And you have a show coming up as well, right?
Yes, we have our, I don't know if I can curse.
Yeah, you can curse.
Fuck Love, a heartbreaking cabaret. Valentine's Day at 7 p.m. It's going to be live stream on YouTube.
Awesome. Where can folks get tickets for that, etc.?
You can go on our socials. It's at Encmpss Arts. It's it's Encmpss without the vowels. And it's early. Yeah, it's there, and you can just go on our YouTube. You can search Encmpss Arts Collaborative, and you can find us on YouTube, and that's where it's going to be streaming. So you don't have to get tickets or reserve a spot or anything. Just click the links that we have floating around, and you'll be there.
Great. I am also going to welcome to the screen our some of our commenter guests, and we've got Jason N. Peters, recent winner of a Pen and Pencil Award.
Here. And, no, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to support the arts. The second I found out about this rally, I've been sharing it from every Twitter account that I run. The Philadelphia, I've fallen in love with the art scene, and I consider myself an artist. I just really am excited to hear about all these fun and exciting things that people are doing, especially for Valentine's Day, to love and to hate on Philadelphia for cutting the budget, and to love the art that you guys are putting out. But I see another box, so feel free to introduce there.
And this is Dr. Ardencia Hall Carambe. Doctor, please introduce yourself, if you would mind. Oh, you're muted, my dear.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ardencia Hall Carambe. I'm an associate professor of theater at Community College of Philadelphia and the artistic director of Kaleidoscope Cultural Arts Collective and Art and Glare Enterprises. And I'm also a member of BTAP, which is the Black Theater Alliance of Philadelphia. So yeah, I'm everywhere. It's fun.
Everywhere. All right, so we've got lots of topics this morning. We're in the middle of a 24-hour rally for the arts. And, thank you to both of our special guests for bringing attention to your productions that are coming up this weekend. Really appreciate it. And hopefully y'all that are watching the rally or watching my YouTube channel because you like to come back for Coffee Break Chat, will go ahead and patronize these folks, give them some love, go buy tickets, go reserve tickets, go repost their events. That's one easy, cheap, free way to get help to artists is to repost their events. You don't understand how much work it is to be your own publisher while you're your own producer, while you're your own director.
Yeah, I mean, the definition of being an artist has grown with the advent of the internet. It's the efficiency and downsizing that comes with the internet. I can't just write a good article. I then have to publish it and then spread it around everywhere and do all of the extra stuff that normally a company would do for me. But if the reason I'm marketable and the reason that people are willing to give me work as an artist or as a writer is because I'm known to spread it better than other journalists or artists. So for some reason that has become a part of the job of an artist, is to also become the distributor, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah. And you recently started Philly Plain Dealer.
We have recently started Philly Plain. There is no hierarchy. We are creating an outlet where there is lateral, horizontal ownership and leadership, self-owned, group-owned. I am not the leader. You are the leader. We are the leaders of the Philly Plain Dealer. Now, because there needs to be a space in Philly for people to have unabashed freedom of speech, unabashed. They can say what they want, even if what they want to say is ugly, you know, and not ugly and like, we're not going to be using slurs. We're not going to be putting down people, but like, it feels like everything in the media is too safe nowadays. So why not take a chance? I published an article with the word, I'll say it because the other Andrew cursed, with the word fuck in the title. And conveniently, it is the only article I've ever written that both of my parents told me was good. So you can put fuck in the title of an article and still get love from your family on it because you're not turning people off.
What do you guys? What's your experience with curse words in the title? This weekend, PDC is doing a play series that is all plays with curse words in the title. So called Talk Dirty to Me. But what's you guys' experience as far as curse words in the titles?
On my end, I guess we try to market to like a family-friendly audience, so we don't really go into that territory. But I think that there is something empowering about sort of just having that in there, and but it's not something that I've done, but I definitely support that endeavor as well.
Oh, I do it. I do it all the time.
Yep. I was just saying, Andrew's got a John called Fuck Love, don't you?
Yeah, that's our show. We, me and my, co-founder partner, Ricky Negron, we say a lot of naughty words, kind of explicit people. Not like you said, not in a bad way, but we're all adults here. So we try to put like, we're not marketed to like, a family-friendly thing, but we want everybody to enjoy the show. So we try to put disclaimers before like the numbers that are explicit, or like before the show being like, hey, it's explicit, you might want to watch out.
And you do try to limit it. You don't make it every word. You know what I'm saying? But cursing is an art form. It really, I think it's an art form when it's done well. It has almost a symphony type appeal to it when it's really just out there, and you get a couple of in a fugue, and it's that whole emotional content. And I think if it's used well and put in the right places, it's great emphasis. So you do it sparingly.
Emphasis.
But you do it.
Emphasis is the key word. Using curse words for emphasis is the correct use of it. Because if you're just throwing curse words left and right, you're going to turn some people off. And I've got a hot take here. I think that cursing is fine for children. And I know that's an absolute hot take, but the amount of violence that children are shown on a daily basis.
Well,
yeah, they can handle a shit. They can handle the word shit and the word ass every once in a while. Once you reach like 12 years old, you can get a couple of the little ones, but they're hearing it anyway. The best rap music in the world is riddled with curse words. and that's the most popular genre of music out right now. People have been heard that.
What always makes me want to curse is whenever I'm dealing with politics, though, and I'm often amazed that our representatives are held to these standards of like not cursing and stuff like that. Like if I was on the floor of Congress when some of these folks say some of the stuff that they say, especially when it's like they say stuff that's anti-LGBTQ or they say stuff that's racist. I would just start cursing up a storm. I'm probably I'd be the worst politician.
The only reason
and that's why you do what you do, James.
Beto O'Rourke tried that and he lost. He tried to be like the cursing candidate for president. He came out and said the F-bomb in like a bunch of videos and Vanity Fair, a big Vanity Fair spread where he said the F word a bunch, and it did not poll well. So I think you could get away with it as like a small-time senator, but once you hit the big stage, you kind of got to drop the cursing a little bit. But I agree. I talk to people as a journalist, having to deal with people just lying to my face. It would just stick with the love and hate thing. My big hate is PR people and lying to me to my face when I know they're lying. It is something that makes me scream an absurd amount, and it's kind of the human resourcing of all communications that are formal, that you just thinly veil lies. And it hurts. Like if you ever look through government documents, they're written in a way to make everything look positive, when really they're saying negative things, but it looks positive because it's written in a very fancy PDF.
And not to get partisan, but Republicans are the queens of giving something a title and describing it in a way that is exactly opposite what it does. And I don't understand how that skill set cropped up, but definitely.
I don't even just blame them. I mean, the city of Philadelphia does an insane amount. Right now, I'm covering green legislation and all these progress reports on making the city green, and it's all their number one goal is to reduce the amount of energy used. And in the report, it says that they are succeeding, yet the energy use has gone up. But because the PDF looks so nice, you're like, oh, they're succeeding. And you're just like, oh, what happened here?
Dr. Hall and I have actually all three of the other guests, Andrew, Gillian, Dr. Hall, and I all have familiarity with people putting a shine on turd for us.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, child. That beautiful color. You get lost in the colors.
Mm-hmm.
That mahogany. Yeah. You get a little yellow streak in there every once in a while. No, I'm sorry. Poop humor will always win out. But yeah, so we've been talking about the budget on the rally. The budget hasn't been released yet. We all as artists and folks that work in public-facing jobs know that, the money isn't out there for regular citizens normally. And one of the interesting, things is that the mayor is putting a really tight deadline on the budget this year, not releasing his version of the budget until May 1st. I don't know if you guys, how much I'm sure Dr. Hall.
I was going to ask, we're talking about fiscal year 22, right?
Yeah, we're talking about the fiscal year 21/22. So we run 6 from June to the budget has to be passed by the end of June, but it is for the period June through June.
That seems efficient, but whatever. Why would they do it like that? I mean, they should give themselves lag time, like a runway. But you know what? That's why I'm not in politics. I'm too pragmatic and too efficient. But there should be a runway of time for them to get the budget going and see if there's money that carries over. It's very frustrating to watch. last year's budget, they wiped out the office of, what was it called? The arts and, the office of, I've got it all right here because I'm writing about this rally in between things.
I believe it's arts and culture.
Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy. They took $4.3 million out of that, as well as taking another $500,000 out of the mural arts program. So that's $4.5 to $4.8 million taken away from Philadelphia arts that were already underserved. It's kind of like the schools. Like the schools got their budgets cut a little bit, but the schools have asbestos in them. It's this constant need to downsize things that are already small to then bolster things, the police, that are already big, with taxpayer money who don't necessarily agree. Like this is a county, Philadelphia County, that voted 82%, 86%, between 82 and 86% for Democratic leadership, yet we have a progressive mayor who's like negotiating against himself, against non-existent
progressive in
Republicans.
big air quotes there.
Oh, no. I'm a Kenny. I can't even talk about my opinions on Kenny as a journalist, but, you know.
I do often talk about my opinions on Kenny as an opinion journalist. Unfortunately, I think he needs to resign. So there's a problem when you have an administration that has let's look at the leadership of the administration for the past couple of years. You had calls for a managing director to resign, who did resign. You have calls for a police commissioner to resign, and you had 3 resignations of police commissioner before that. You have calls for a public health director to resign. How many parts of the executive administration need to resign before we start looking a little bit higher up the food chain and figuring out why so many parts of the executive are failing? How many resignations does it take before you start saying, oh, maybe there's a problem somewhere a little bit else? I don't know.
Progressives are going to be given a bad name because of this first wave, the first generation of quote-unquote progressives that were able to get elected, who were chameleon progressives. There are people who wore the progressive skin to get nominated within the Democratic Party. Like, I don't understand how you could be Mayor Kenny and call yourself a progressive, but before, in his re-election campaigns, taken millions from Mike Bloomberg. Millions. Not, like... How did we? Obviously, he's going to fund the police department and overfund the police department because that's what Mike Bloomberg paid him 7 figures to do. That money doesn't come without stipulations. That money comes how it comes.
Yeah. So, Dr. Hall, you work in education. We had a little conversation about education and the arts, but both areas that are severely underfunded. What are the successful routes to getting funding in education? Maybe arts can learn something from education.
No, I'm not sure where they are, in all honesty. I mean, just like, and I have to pick up because, I'm an old woman. So let me pick up my iPad. So as Jason just said, education and the arts are often they are usually the smaller budgets, and they're usually the budgets that are first cut. So they're kind of hand in hand with each other. They're easy to eliminate because in many ways, or at least cut down, people don't see the benefit in many ways of either. Let me see if I can make the point. Even though we proclaim to be a society that thinks that education is something that everyone should get, we profess it all the time, yet we have a body of the citizenry that thinks that intellectualism is a disease. And we have people who are on the 3rd grade level, reading level here in the city, who and and part of it is because of the broken educational system. It's like you're damned. They love the arts, but just as the statistics came out at the beginning, towards the beginning, middle of the pandemic, what were the jobs that were considered non-essential? Arts. Yet people were coming home all the time and turning on Netflix and binging on all these other shows, but don't make the correlation that those are forms of art. Those are artists doing that. But yet you say what we do is non-essential. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing with education. People need education, but we have, as I said, we have this this mindset that, oh, we don't need, intellectualism is bad. So it's a catch-22. So it's hard to, how do you fund the redheaded stepchildren in the room? Both of them are the redheaded stepchildren. So it's they don't see, I don't know how to say it other than sometimes people find it hard to connect the dots and see how they make true education, a true level of education, and arts make a society whole. They just don't make those connections.
And you touched on something really good right there. You talked a little bit about anti-intellectualism and being the redheaded stepchildren. Very similar to anti-intellectualism in American pop culture is this idea to not respect the arts. That is very similar to anti-intellectualism. Like, yes,
right,
everybody you know enjoys art. They enjoy pop music, the artists that they enjoy. But the second they don't understand something or they don't like a form of art or it goes over their head, they hate on it. Like, they hate on it. It's not just that another form of art can exist with not liking it. It's, you don't want your money funding art that you don't enjoy. You don't want to fund art that you don't agree with. And I think a country that does a good job with this is England. I see they have skate parks that are built by the government. They have the BFI, the British Film Institute, which its sole job is to produce British films to then compete on the international market. We've probably all watched BFI movies without even knowing it because they consider it important to their national status as a country.
All of the BBC is government funded. All of Channel 4 is government funded. All of the productions that they do as a country are nationally funded, and they're not even the biggest percent spenders of money per capita.
Because it makes money. Because it produces more money. It's a good business idea to make good art, because art is a commodity that is able to be sold for profit. So if you just put your money towards, and you know what's the biggest bullshit about all of this is, if you pull out a dollar bill, I don't have a dollar bill in my hands grasp because I'm an artist. They have if you look at the money of American money, just any dollar bill, the Secretary of the Treasury during the Trump administration, Steve Mnuchin, is the executive producer of Suicide Squad. The man is a movie producer. He's taking his money that he gets from his government job to then pay for movies that then make him a profit. So they're the same people in the same positions doing the same thing. It's just how the money flows, and it's very frustrating. And it's a bad
entertainment is one of the largest commodities that we have flowing out of the United States worldwide. It brings back more money than most of our products that go out to other countries. Every year.
Oh, sorry.
And
go ahead,
darling.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, another example similar to England funding their arts is in Europe with, like, Italy and Germany funding, like, classical music, like, because they're really, really into opera. They have a lot more money going into that versus here, the Metropolitan Opera, like, had to fire all of their musicians this past year, and, like, they're not really getting, I don't think, support, at least not that I know of. So it's definitely a really big point to look at, like, you know, other governments that are actually, like, putting forth financial resources versus ours.
And on top of that money, what is the message that giving the money send? It says that we as a society value this. The money is not just money. The government told us that money equals speech, so let's listen to them when they talk. So they're putting money towards what they think matters. They do not think the arts matter. I think it's kind of a divide. There's kind of this conservative idea that the arts are lefty and they're mocking you, and like I have a brother who's right wing who won't watch Will Ferrell movies because he's a liberal. Like, so how could you ever convince that side of the aisle who has the purse? They hold the power of the purse, but not anymore with the Biden administration, but they're not going to fund the arts because, that's how the cookie crumbles. So we have to fight for it at a local level, which is why something like this is so good. I've been excited to see. James, do you mind telling me what political officials did you guys have in here yesterday? And do you guys have any on the docket today?
We had our city council interview last night. You can watch it in review. It's actually up on the Facebook and the YouTube for Power Street and Light Thief. And if you just skip to the 7 o'clock hour of part 2. But yeah, we had nearly a quorum of city council members. It was pretty funny. They even mentioned it. We had Councilman O. We had Councilman Gilmore Richardson. We had council member. We had a few that didn't show. Actually, Councilmember Green emailed me an apology. He had a family emergency. But thank you for emailing me and letting me know that you wanted to attend. We had Councilmember Gim for a little while. We had sheesh, I can't even remember all the names at this point. But all of them said, "Hey, we've heard that the arts are important from the community. We definitely hear it." And I cited that last year. Yeah, I know. I cited that last year. Yeah, we hear you.
Remember what we were saying earlier? PR speech. Someone tells they hear you. You know what that means? That means fuck you. I mean, I know you're not supposed to say that, but god damn. No, you don't get anything you...
Yeah, one of the things that I haven't been able to figure out a way to communicate it to council. I also haven't been able to find a way to communicate it to the half of the voting public that doesn't understand this. But art takes care of all of the things. Arts and education take care of all the other things. Like, if you have good educational systems, I'm going to address the audience. If you have good educational systems, you have a population that knows how to do things and understands things. It's not good to be anti-intellectual. You need intellectualism to understand the world that you live in. If you have good art support, if you have good arts education, you get people who know how to express themselves without just resorting to violence or resorting to physically exerting their understanding of the world. They try and express their understanding of the world in a different way, and that's important. That's important. And I know I went over this in the opening, but I'd like to go over it again because I forgot to bring it up during the council segment. Here in Philadelphia, there were massive protests both for and against the counting of the presidential vote. And you had hundreds of people against counting the vote so that ostensibly Trump would win a second round of presidency, and you had thousands of people counter protesting saying, no, count the votes because I voted and I deserve to be counted. So here, neither one of those sides turned violent, and that's because of the high involvement of the arts in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, and artists joined in and led the protest movements to be peaceful and expressive, but peacefully expressive. So, you know, I don't know that's
you are beyond right. I was there covering the events. I was there in the convention center when all those people showed up. The thing was, and I think this is even a great point to conservatives' misunderstanding of the arts. Conservatives were playing like music by like Rage Against the Machine. This is liberal music. It sounds, it's all about, they were playing songs that were anti-police, not knowing, because they weren't even listening to the words. And to more of what you said, and I'm going to fight you a little bit, it is not in the people in powers, this capitalist oligarchy that we have in America, it is not in their benefit to have an educated public. It is not. And that could be my little conspiracy theory, but there's a reason the textbooks are written the way that they're written. There's a reason that we only see Martin Luther King in black and white. There's a reason that we're not taught about the Tuskegee experiment. We don't talk about like any of the wars that we lose. Why do we think we've won all the wars? We lost in Vietnam, we lost in Iraq. We don't talk about it. The Spanish Civil War and the involvement in the Spanish Civil War to join World War II. The creation of the police as descendants of slave owners. Like, it's the education. My eye, I just touched it and got fucked up. It's not in the curriculum. You're not supposed to be educated. You're supposed to believe what keeps General Mills and Kellogg's going. You're supposed to believe.
We call it indoctrination.
Yeah. You're indoctrinated. You're not educated, and that's the biggest problem in America is that you got all these people.
Y'all gonna make me lose my job. Y'all gonna make me lose my job.
I'm just saying.
Dr. Hall, you're just you're just churching over there. You haven't said anything.
No.
I'm just saying it's very frustrating because that issue is at the center of the political point we're at. I have friends, close friends of mine, whom I grew up with, who are Trump people because they think that the anti-patriotism and the why don't you just love America? We're the greatest country on earth. Why are you saying all these bad things? Why are you complaining? That's their worldview. So when we complain and say we want things to be better, they take it as, oh, you're not grateful for what you have. And to be honest, I'm not. I lived in the suburbs and it was heroin everywhere. My parents were told that was the American dream. And guess what? They were sold a bill of bad goods. And then I was sold that bill of bad goods. But the good thing about the generation behind us is that they weren't sold anything. They were told this place is fucked up and you're gonna have to save it. And I wasn't. I was still taught about Christopher Columbus, Star Spangled Banner, yada yada. That was my education, and I had to break out of it because I listened to Limp Bizkit and watched The Daily Show and George Carlin. So at like 5 years old. So I was put on to like Young Jeezy too early. And that swayed my view of the world. But other people weren't. Other people grew up on Springsteen, and they're mad at us for being mad.
Yeah, I had the same experience when I was in school. Like, I grew up in suburban Philadelphia, and it wasn't until I went to Temple for undergrad, and it wasn't until like I was in Temple taking their like gen ed classes that really focus a lot on like what actually happened in America, that I really got to like have my eyes open to a lot of that history. And it's crazy because like just like you, like I was taught that Christopher Columbus was this guy who came and they were all friendly. No, like and that was only like what early 21st century. So yeah, I think that education is extremely important, but it has to be like truthful education, not.
Mm-hmm. And to speak on this a little bit before, because I got to get off. I have a thing at 10:45, but my whole work before I was validated as a journalist recently, like this year, I started a project called the 2100 Podcast. The premise being that it's a time capsule for the people of the year 2100 to listen to and understand what was happening in our time period, because history books are filled with lies. The popular narrative that makes it to the future is often the narrative of the victors and of the rich, the wealthy, and the powerful class. So my whole idea was, I'm going to leave something for the 2 generations ahead, the year of 2100. And the plan is to have it re-released in 2100, 52 episodes, 1 for every week of that year, for them to understand that we are so similar to them, and that 100 years back was very similar to where we are. There was a pandemic in 1928. Masks, the whole 9 yards, the same fights. And guess what? They did a better job at vaccinating than we do. So there's a lot to learn from history. And before I sign off here, I just want to say thank you to all the other panelists on here. It was great to get to know you. I hope our paths cross in the future. James, it was a delight. I will be writing about this rally for Grid Magazine, and hopefully that article's out tonight or tomorrow. But have a great day, y'all. And save the arts, fund the arts, and defund the police. So long.
Peace, Jason. Peace out.
Yeah, no, and one of the important parts of talking about education is that we have to realize, and we have to spread the message that education is really controlled by a very, very small number of people, and the people that are influencing education have positioned themselves very, very well and very surreptitiously to do that control. It's interesting because the reason that education is so controllable is because of how commercial our entire world is. So if you think about it, there's this whole big economy in writing books for educational purposes, writing history books, math books, and school districts have to buy new books every 3 to 5 years because the information changes. Just like anything else, the more of it you buy, the less it's going to cost. So people that are very commerce driven figured this out a number of years ago and started positioning themselves in school districts that are large. So basically you have school districts that represent a couple of million children making decisions for a couple of billion children because they are big. So they decide to buy a certain textbook, which then gets spread around the entirety of the country as a purchase decision, because we're so commerce driven.
Texas is one of the biggest. Texas is one of the biggest states that in Texas. If Texas usually buys a book, a textbook, it's usually bought by other states as well because it has one of the largest school districts in the nation. And so, and I'm from Texas. I have relatives who teach in Texas, so yeah, that I'm gonna lose my job. That BS gets spread everywhere. But I want to say this about, I think one of the marks of a more structured, civilized society is their education and their arts. If you look at those two things, it tells you a lot about the society. When you honestly put in money for education and you put in money for the arts, it elevates everyone. It elevates living, the idea of what life is supposed to be and how we are supposed to function as human beings. It elevates everything and everyone within the society because everybody benefits. It's one of those things. Those are two things that actually trickle down. You know what I'm saying? In comparison to other things, economics don't trickle down, but we know that art is something I posted this on Facebook not too long ago. Art is a selfish act that is shareable. We create it in a selfish way because we have no choice, but we also have to share it with others when we are finished. And so it can spread in ways and change ideology. And that's part of the reason. And same thing with education. And that's why most those gatekeepers are afraid of really letting true education and true art policy reign in the country, because it will open so many minds. And what do you do with an open mind when you don't want open minds?
Yeah, I completely resonate with that a lot as someone like growing up in arts programs, choirs, theater. It was such an impactful part of like my adolescence and really like guided me into like my life direction. And even if it hadn't, I think that it still would have been really important because it develops skills that are just important for life, communication, confidence. I think that I do think that there's always room for growth though in the education like that I did receive, because I think that especially within music, especially within classical music, it's very like westernized, and it's very like not it basically a lot of my education was just learning about like white composers and like white male composers specifically, and I think that if the education doesn't encompass like a diverse array of historical fact, like if we're just focusing on like westernized music, sort of silences all of the other things that are possible to learn about. And I think that is really important, and I think it is starting to change a bit. I remember like my last semester of college, I did start to learn more about like female composers, black composers. So that was good, but it wasn't until my last semester. So I think there's always room for the education in the arts to also improve. And I think
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I mean, my concentration, even though I have a BFA in acting and MA in directing, both of which were heavily concentrated in Western doctrine, my PhD is focused on African and African diaspora traditions, because that's who I am. You know what I'm saying? And even through that process of getting my bachelor's and my master's, I had professors that were at least awoke enough to pass on material to me, even if the program itself might not have been heavily African American, you know. And as every college does, they do their one black show or two black shows a year, you know what I'm saying? And then that kind of stuff. And I also started my own theater group on campus, or revived a theater group that existed on campus that was made up of students, of Black students and students of color. So there, you know, we find other ways to do that. But I totally agree that by bringing in the other voices, and that's part of the problem, and that's why we are where we are as a society. That's why we saw what we saw on January 6th, is because the lack of other voices are now, because they're not allowed into the conversation. And so when people say this is my history, other folks balk because they don't know that history. They haven't been taught that history. They're not aware of that history, because indoctrination doesn't work that way. Indoctrination wants you to see the society only in its best light. And those people who speak against that light are on the fringe and must be the ones who are the enemy of the light. Okay. And you know, as a person of color, as a Black person growing up in a home, African American home, we were always taught, yeah, it might be light, but honey, it burns. So there's always another truth to it. There's always another layer underneath it, and no one is perfect. And to think of that, you know, that everything that comes out of the Western world is perfect is going to set you up for failure. So, you know, I think there's
I, I would like to touch on something that you just reminded me of. One of my normal rants is that a lot of what we consider the quote unquote Western world or Western society. This is what actually one of the things that drives me absolutely batshit insane about the Western chauvinist movements is that Western society isn't Western society. Theater comes from Africa. If you look at African tradition, and you go straight from African tradition to Greek theater, it's this exact source of the theater tradition. Like you can't. So all these traditions that are supposedly Western, and you know, like the contributions of Western society. Listen, societies have been borrowing from each other for the entire time that they've existed. There is no one source for culture. There is no contribution to culture. Culture just builds on itself and builds on itself. And it you know, it is not like people seem to think that you know, this is the only thing, the only place to get culture is this Western European tradition, and that's not it. That ain't it at all. And yeah, so that just drives me a little nuts. 1 second, Dr. Hall. 1 second. No, not you. My fault. I need to fix your audio. Audio capture. Go ahead.
I'm going to say, if you look at the Western tradition, especially here in America, it would have stopped at opera and classical music. That's all the American forms of music we would know if it was based on Western tradition. Mm-hmm. Because rock and roll, blues, gospel, jazz, all of that came through African tradition. And actually, really, especially jazz, it's really that combination of that European form and that African form blending together in New Orleans. So, I mean, American culture would be no more than opera, and people don't think about the contributions of other cultures in that way. American society is such, and I'm not going to use the word, it is that bowl of salad that everybody has borrowed from everybody to build an American culture, but other people want to see themselves as being somewhat more giving at the table when they might not have been.
Yeah, I think that, like, from my experience, like in voice teaching, I've always like thought about how there's this idea of that if you're classically trained, that's like the end all be all of voice training, meaning like that is the only healthy way to sing, and that's been a line of thought for like a long time in classical voice world, and it's actually just like completely false, because it's coming from this idea that westernized singing is the way to sing, which is not true. And so when you look at these other singing styles like pop, rock, R&B, like jazz, those are all non-westernized styles, but they're still valid and they're not unhealthy. Like there's a lot of studies now that in science that like is saying that belting is not like a unsustainable form of singing, meaning it's not going to ruin your voice if you're going to be belting. And that even goes into Broadway, like, because now Broadway is so influenced by popular culture and popular singing, and like a lot of classical, a lot of classical line of thought is that like oh, I don't teach belting, or I don't want to go into that because it's not healthy, but it is healthy, and it sort of has to have that. That's another part of the education that has to kind of start changing. And I was lucky because I had a voice teacher that was telling me that, like, it is okay to belt, and like there is healthy ways to belt. So I'm gonna try to continue that with my students, but I think it's also gonna require like a broader line of change within the structure of that industry.
Well, I brought Lindo back on because I saw you yelling at your screen over there.
No, I was rehearsing. I was getting ready for the next sentence, so I practiced in my lines. I took notes. You know, I got social anxiety, so I got rehearsed what I'm gonna say to people. So you kind of gave away my act. I can't even act now.
No, it's all right. You got to do what you got to do. But I saw you yelling at the screen. I thought you were ready to jump in.
Oh no! That was just me acting. I'm sorry.
No worries. Anyway, it's 10:59. I want to give the broadcast back to the digital rally. And I want to thank Gillian. I want to thank you, Andrew. Let me just add you to the first screen there. Thank you for joining us, Andrew. Thank you again, as always, Dr. Hall. Thank you to Jason Peters, all for joining us this morning. And we're going to cut back to Lindo in a second. And you'll introduce our next segment, right?
Wait, that's what I do. That's what, you know what I mean? I'm the bridge, right. I guess. Right. I don't know. I'm looking for a better metaphor. I don't want to use bridge. This is why I had rehearsal. This is why I was screaming at my screen to get these lines right. I was over here taking notes.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. If you like what you see, drop a dollar to us on Patreon, patreon.com/LightThiefProductions. Stick around for the rest of the 24-hour digital rally. I'll be here. I run this thing from the background, but so I'll be here at my desk for another few hours. We'll be online till 10 p.m. tonight. Feel free to watch the digital rally on Light Thief Productions YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Mob Crush, or on Power Street's YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Mob Crush, etc. We're going out all over the place. Thank you all for being a guest, and let me pin you on the talking camera, Lindo. And
thank you
peace out,
so
everybody.
Much. Peace, see ya, peace.